Good afternoon and welcome to Newsfeed. My name is Linda Alala. Let's take you through the stories that are making headlines as compiled by my editorial team. It is always a pleasure. You can interact with us. Hashtag Newsfeed at TV47 at Linda_Alela. Let's proceed to it as we take a look at matters education right here. And schools might reopen in January. This is according to the Cabinet Secretary for Matters Education, that is Professor George Magoha, who held a consultative meeting with officials of trade unions in matters education. And according to Magoha, the Ministry of Health says the peak of the virus will be in September and might go down as of January next year. He has, however, insisted that reopening of schools will equally depend on the status of coronavirus in the country, just as he had said earlier on. Let's take a look.
Here is to tell you that this is a continuous process that involves every stakeholder, and the most important stakeholder, and unfortunately or fortunately, is the Ministry of Health, represented here by Dr. Umbajo, and by extension Dr. Machonda, who represents the union. We know that we have said in the past that they have produced a certain protocol that we must all comply with. And today, we started with many options, and we have kept on narrowing the options. And today we have discussed the options that are according to what is happening in the country as at the moment. As you are aware, a few days ago, we had a peak of 278. And since that time, we are in the hundreds. We have also been reliably informed this morning by the doctors that the peak is likely to come in September, and by the grace of God, perhaps taper down around January. Taking all those factors into consideration, including the fact that the good government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has taken the children to school. Every child went to school using the 100% mop-up transition. Therefore, the children are at school, and the schools are a bit congested. And that whatever is going to determine whether we open or not would depend on whether social distancing can be achieved in school. So we have reached a consensus. It is not my place to tell you which consensus we have reached, but in good time, the owner of the process will inform you which consensus we have reached.
And the government has called on stakeholders in the tourism industry to adopt a self-policing in subscribing to the standard operating procedures. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i spoke during the launch of Magical Kenya Tourism Health and Safety Protocols. Tourism CS Najib Balala has said that the tourism sector is ready to demonstrate Kenya's readiness for tourism business under the prevailing circumstances.
A fake coffin on top of the van and travel 380 kilometers away from Nairobi, purporting to go to a funeral or whatever the case there may be, and lying through the roadblocks and doing all manner of things through the roadblocks as they endanger their own lives, the lives of their family members, and many other people. Why should police officers be on the road to help you not to do this, as it were? So I hope that when we talk about the new normal, we in the security sector see it from a different perspective. We say we hope it's going to be the new normal when we realize that now more than ever before, the issue of individual responsibility is very important. You yourself as an individual, caring about your own life and the life of your neighbor, the life of your family members is fundamental. The spread of the virus remains on the increase with far-reaching social and economic effects that threaten lives and livelihoods. It's now a reality that the virus could become endemic, and we must all be prepared to live with it and resume normalcy under the prevailing circumstances as global efforts to find vaccines continue. As a government, we have introduced a raft of measures to keep our economy afloat, with tourism being among the top priority sectors, and these have been outlined by my colleagues before. I am therefore confident that some of the directives, incentives, and mitigation measures issued by His Excellency the President, including tax exemptions, reduction of income tax, and the 8-point economic stimulus program, among others, will go a long way in contributing to the recovery efforts of the tourism sector. We recognize the role played by the private sector in supporting government policies geared towards promotion of tourism in Kenya. It is indeed through this partnership working approach that the Tourism Recovery Task Force has developed Magical Kenya tourism and hospitality protocols on health and safety to mitigate the effects of the disruptions caused by COVID-19 pandemic. I congratulate my colleagues, especially my brother Najib Balala, Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife, for the visionary leadership he has provided, through which we are set to realize success in the face of this pandemic, especially in this sector. However, for us to rise and optimize the gains in this sector during these times, all stakeholders must adopt these protocols and take responsibility of ensuring that a destination Kenya is safe for tourism business. As a result, all tourism and related businesses and service providers should embrace this participatory approach by subscribing, adhering to, and implementing the standard operating procedures. It is through your continued collaboration in the application, implementation, enhancement and provision of a healthy, safe, and seamless experience and world-class service to our visitors that we can demonstrate to the world that Kenya is ready for tourism business once again. I, on my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues in the security sector, would like to add our consistent commitment to provide security to our people, both the citizens of our country and the visitors who come to our nation. Just this morning I was telling people that our country is safe for travel, and Kenyans need to understand this. And for you in the tourism sector, since you have our IG in-house, you don't have a lot of problems because he understands all these things about morning briefs and 4 a.m. notes and stuff like that. He knows that our country is safe, from Mombasa to Malafa.
And Makueni Governor, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, is currently before the Senate's Public Accounts Committee and Investment Committee. Let's listen in to what is ongoing.
That. And then you say number 19 on the fund. I would like to hear from the auditors whether you are assigned to those fund, whether you have interrogated those accounts, and whether you are satisfied that money was put in that account. But I'm more worried with your comments towards the last end. Funds reallocated to the project's 2019 financial year as the disaster floods came to an end, and therefore, what does that mean? Where are those funds? Were they expensed with, or what happened to those funds? Those are the mundane issues that we want to come out so that we're clear what we are doing. Senator Chilayako.
Chair, and heard you, and it leaves me wondering. I've repeatedly heard you say that there was public participation, and that later on the community changed their mind and opted for another project. Mindful of the fact that you are an experienced governor, this being your second term, you are also an experienced public servant. After projects have been firmed up and budgeted for, how can the community again convene and vitiate or you negate that project when it's at the stage of implementation? Because I've heard you repeatedly saying this one, we had planned this, budgeted for this, then community convened again when we now had the money and we were planning to implement this and said they wanted something else. How is that structured in public participation? Because public participation is the process through which the public, give their input as to the priority for budgeting and financing. And once that has been done, they become functus officio. They cannot reconvene and now meet you and tell you that thing you started, Prof, is no longer the thing we want. They would not find you because you are now implementing the budget. So how does that happen? To me, is something that makes me a little curious.
So, Governor?
Yes?
Mtula Kilonzo, something else?
Yes. Just for your records and for purposes, because you're going to do the audit for 2019-2020, my concern would be, for example, if you have a project like number 22, and that's why it's important, and this is the reason why some of these things raise, the ambiguity creates a notion something is being hidden. When you say the money is transferred to other works in 2019-2020, I would think, Chairman, that for purposes of proper audit and recording, that whatever it is you have reallocated would be specified. So that come the audit of 2019-2020, for neatness, you are able to say this item number 22 has been transferred to item number so-and-so appearing in 2019-2020. So either for the audit and the committee, it will be important for the people of Makueni to understand the specificity of these things, because it's this ambiguity that leads to the notion that something is being hidden.
Governor?
In terms of public participation and how things change, for example, we had a major problem of floods, and as a result of water sources, roads, and so on being destroyed, that is what happened, so that there were the projects of disaster management. That is all wards. We have 30 wards, and we will supply the 30 wards by name to Senate. I think there must be some document where there are, but we will do that. And the idea was to help those wards to combat the dangers that had ensued from those floods. Even in terms of COVID, for example, there are things that happen and you have to change priorities because you have to get some money for something that is of an emergent and emerging nature. And again, the people are able to sit down and say, this, we have to change whatever priority that we had. This question of land, and I think we have answered this question many times, when we have said that there are many instances of public land which has been privatized. So the people have a project thinking that that land is available. They discover that that land historically is not available. We have to think of going to court and doing stuff like that. And this is what from very, very many projects, because for example, each ward per year may have more than 100 projects. So even these land instances are few projects. Like the percentage of what this percent that we have here, the projects that we normally have are very, very, very many, but this is like a sample, which of course was picked by the Auditor General. Our public participation also in terms of if the people say they want something and then it turns out that there isn't that land, it turns out that they decide they have another interest, and they say during a supplementary, we want to change our mind. In Makueni, they are allowed to change their mind. It's not rigid. We can't tell them that you chose, that is what you must do. What Mutula said in terms of giving an example of number 22, it is not that we are not specific or there is something we are hiding. There is nothing that we hide. We were to do this with a donor, one of the conservators or people who have those conservancies. They were not forthcoming immediately. and the community said that they want to do something else, as we try to see whether we shall get permission and funding for an electric fence or get even support from the national level. But again, when the Auditor General comes to Makueni at a time that Senate will specify, then all these projects, they will be told this is when it was completed. All that information will be supplied and it will come back to Senate. There is nothing that we hide in our situation because we think we are generally quite transparent.
So Governor, let's tie up this thing before I went out on this matter.
Chair, if you may allow me.
Yes,
because I believe you're still on issue number 1 on the matter of Strong Project. Not give details, yet this was a query asked by.
And away from that, Elizabeth will be following up on the same. We'll update you some more later. And the county government of Uasin Gishu has tabled its 2020-2021 budget estimates at the county assembly. The county executive in charge of finance and economic planning, CPA Julius Ruto, said the total budget estimate of 8.2 billion shillings is set to be financed by, among others, equitable shareable revenues of 6.4 billion and 1.1 billion as conditional grants. Ruto urged the county residents to live within their means, citing a drop in revenue collection in all county revenue streams occasioned by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
I propose an allocation of 2,606,454,442 to the sector to strengthen curative and rehabilitative services and preventive, promotive and protective maternal, neonatal, child and adolescent health services. Mr. Speaker, out of this amount, 408 million will go towards development of health facilities that include construction of Siwa Level 5 Hospital with an allocation of 200 million, Kasese Sub-County Hospital with an allocation of 190 million, and Captilton Hospital with an allocation of 5 million, which are all ongoing. I have also allocated 13.7 million towards extension of Kipkenya Health Center and further 122 million for medical drugs and supplies. We will enhance efforts towards resource mobilization, strengthen collaboration and partnership with the national government, neighboring counties, development partners, private sector, and the general public.
Elsewhere, sugarcane farmers from the southern Nyanza region, that is Homa Bay and Migori counties, are applauding the government's effort of putting up an open market to facilitate their sugarcane business. The farmers say that since the downfall of the Sony Sugar Company, they have had a hard time selling their produce, which left them estimating huge losses. They now say this step will aid in increasing their profits across the country, since they are hopeful in collaborating with various stakeholders in reviving the sugar industry.
What we need as a farmer is only money. We involved in the sugarcane farming so that we are able to get economic uplift, whereby we are able to meet our social needs. In fact, the regulation as it is now, it has given now a window whereby all millers are now going to be forced to pay farmers within 7 days.
What I'm asking the farmers within Sony region, as their leader, that you go back to your farm and continue growing sugarcane so that we may have enough sugarcane which can be transported to Transmara, to sugar industry and Sony, so that we may have enough money within our sugar region.
Farmers in Mkokoni village, Lamu County, are counting losses after wild animals invaded their farms, destroying their crops they come across, and Mwangi Minor reports on that.
Mohammed is bitterly counting losses after a herd of buffaloes made an entry to his farm, sweeping it clean. Mohammed says his maize crop was ready for harvest, but his efforts have been frustrated yet again.
Mimi nimepanda mahindi, nimepanda pojo, nimepanda kitumani, nimepanda muhogo. Na nati wameningira saa 8 za usiku mimi. Na mwenyewe nakesa navo. Na kulala ulala hapo shambani mimi. Sendi yini. Lakini hasara ndio nipacha sasa hii, ni ruha yangu namba nishikendia aswa nende zangu sasa. Sina kula sasa, nikifanya nini? Mimi niko matumaini mahindi ndio Mungu atanipa ndio riziki yangu. Over
100 farmers had rested their hope on maize, cowpeas and green grams, but their hard labor has been rendered useless. They say for the last 4 years, they have sought audience with the relevant authorities, but no one has come to their rescue.
Gemu hawezi kumlinda, wala ipi hawezi kumlinda. Tupewe ruhusa tumfunge pale. Hapa shambani kwangu hapa. Kama hivi sasa, kama nilikuwa nimepewa ruhusa nimemfunga, hangekula hapa. Angefungwa pale, asubuhi tukaweka ripoti, wenyewe wakaja kafanya nini? Wakamfungua, lakini hapa hangeingia. Lakini tumetatizika kwamba sisi hatuwezi kuwaziwia. Hivi huwezi, tumweke kamba, akija tumfunge. Hata ifunge mwenyewe, manake atangia, atafungika, atakula.
The farmers now want the Kenya Wildlife Service to employ more wardens, since the 3 in the area are overwhelmed.
Tupewe ruhusa, kila mtu mwenye shamba lake, kiba kila siku kama sehemu ingia hapo. Leo akija atakeka nini tavunja tangia. Nimfunge, halafu asubuhi nifanye ripoti, mwenyewe aje amfungue.
Lamu woman representative Roeda Mohammed has said she will petition tourism CS Najib Balala for the government to compensate the affected farmers.
Waziri Balala ametoa check kaunti ya Tharaka Nithi. Sasa nitamwendea ofisini inshallah niulize na huku kwetu mvipi. Ile check alopeana yeye ni ya kulipa wale ni fidia ile watu walioathiriwa na wanyamapori.
Farmers in the area have threatened to take action in taming the wild animals if the Kenya Wildlife Service will not take responsibility of restraining and containing the animals. Mwangi Maina, TV 47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, the Ministry of Agriculture has launched a dairy goat rearing program in Nakuru County. The program that targets women and youth groups in the rural areas.
The Ministry of Agriculture has launched a dairy goat rearing program in the rural areas of Nakuru town in order to provide a source of livelihood to the locals.
Vijana itatusaidia kwa kupata mapato. Ndio tunatarajia tukue breeders wa mbuzi area hii ya Molo sub-county. Itatuajiri vijana.
The program provides the beneficiaries training on home-based manufacture of value-added goat products such as pasteurized milk, yogurt, butter and cheese. This is aimed at making the end products as commercial and competitive as other dairy products.
Ukipata lita ya maziwa ya mbuzi inauzwa kwa shilingi 100. Kwa hivyo ukilinganisha na ile maziwa ya ng'ombe ni 40 shillings.
Ruth Namale, members of the youth group chairperson, however, says there are foreseen challenges in goat farming, such as expensive feeds, supplements and medicine for the animals.
Ng'ombe inahitaji sehemu kubwa, mbuzi inahitaji sehemu kubwa ya kulisha. Sasa kama vijana mtu akipata yake moja, at least ataweza kulisha jamii yake na atapata mapato na hata hiyo maziwa atauza.
Women and youth groups in 20 selected wards within Molo, Njoro, Kuresoi North, Bahati and Naivasha sub-counties are beneficiaries of the program. For TV 47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
And all the way to Kigali, the Rwanda National Police RNP spokesperson John Bosco Kabera says that individuals' responsibility is key in containing COVID-19. Diana Ereza reports from Rwanda.
Nabarinjie campaign looks at the individual character to make a choice not to be the source for COVID-19 infections wherever people live, work, in the vehicle or at work. Although most businesses and movements as well as the transport sector resumed across the country, CP Kabera says that the global pandemic is still in our midst and said safety protocols are compulsory and must be adhered to at all times to prevent catching or spreading the virus at home, in the community, at work or while traveling.
Having literally means it should not be me. It should not be me to contract or spread COVID-19. This comes after 3 months of intensive campaign that has been targeting the general public. And at this juncture, we felt very, very necessary for us to have another campaign slogan, which is in Habarinje or it should not be me. Placing the responsibility in the hands of every citizen. And The hashtag is just picked up very well on the social media. We got a very big following, and people are actually tweeting, liking, and actually giving comments about it. So we think it's picking up, and we just need to be consistent and carry it forward.
TV47 Rwanda talked to a few locals to hear their take on this campaign. We also asked them about the roles they have been playing individually to support the fight against COVID-19.
Every Rwandan should be very cautious of what is happening in the country and how rapidly the numbers of COVID-19 cases are increasing. Everyone has a role to play in fighting against the spread of this virus. This is a widespreading disease. I would like to encourage every citizen to look at the fight against the virus as an individual responsibility.
Mukazi akariko kose nuko agomba kwirinda akarinda na mugenzi we.
On Monday, June the 29th, the Ministry of Health reported 101 new COVID-19 cases that were diagnosed from 2,498 tests. 3 were detected in Rusizi district, 2 in Rubavu district, and 22 new cases found in Kigali city. Diana Iriza, Kigali, Rwanda.
And thanks for choosing to stay with TV47, the home of Untold Story. News Deck, as the end of a news feed. Stay tuned for more comprehensive content coming your way. My name is Linda Alela. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.